It's approximately 8:15, and I'd like to call the Welcome Public Utility District Commission meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. So I'm just letting everyone know that I'm in Tucson in nice sunny warm weather, and mostly enjoying a week of vacation. So I'm glad to be here too, though. So let's call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So let's visit our agenda today. Are there any changes or amendments to our agenda?
No.
Commissioners?
No.
Do we have any need for executive session today?
No. No.
No. John's silent, but I assume that's a no. Okay, great. So we will not be having an executive session today. That's it says as needed, of course. So let's move on. The consented. We should approve the agenda. So entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I moved to approve and Eddie seconded.
Okay, sorry.
Should we louder?
Are you having trouble hearing me, or am I having trouble hearing you?
I think you're having trouble hearing us.
Okay. I mean, I'm hearing you now, and maybe if in the future, just correct me. We're a family. Okay.
Motion and a second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now let's move on to the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting and approval of the claims. Any discussion?
None for me.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. I had just one clarification, a question about the claims. And it's to Annette, and it doesn't need to be resolved before we approve, but just I was wondering if when we look at the claims, some of those claims are very much an operational and one time only, and some of them are very much tied up in our big capital project. It's an open question. We don't have to resolve that today at all. But if we can if staff can get back to us on this, would there be a way to break the claims into those that are part of a long-term capital project, like the plant one rebuild, and those that are not? And I'm open. Is that even a good idea? I mean, I'm just thinking about reviewing the claims. If it would be helpful for us to know what's part of the big capital project, things that are one time only or recurring type of things that are not part of the project. So just an open question.
I mean, one thing that I would address to that is all of our CIPs have a specific number to them, like an RW number or an E number, and that's how you could know that those are our actual projects, as opposed to something that just says, consulting or something like that. That's going to whatever consulting line item that might be. That's just something that's going to happen again and again. But the actual big projects will have a CIP letter and number attached to them.
Oh, that's very helpful. That answers my yeah, I personally feel comfortable just reviewing that. So, all right, with any further discussion?
Northwest Municipal Advisors, what was that for?
I think that is your bond.
Oh, right, okay.
Your bond security needs.
For 62,000?
Sounds about right.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And that can address it, but I think that's what that is.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'll move to approve the claims.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. And I didn't hear the two ayes for some reason, by the way, but I assume there was three ayes. Moving on to public comment.
I see no hands up on the screen.
Hey, Tool, it's Todd Legacy. I'd just point out that I think the agenda packet just got posted on the website this morning.
That may be accurate. Yeah.
Thank you, Todd, for pointing that out. When is our desired agenda packet posting? Should it be Thursday?
Website says 5 business days before.
That would be Wednesday, actually, right?
Yes, based on that criteria.
Do we want a check-in? If Joseph is not in the room yet, maybe when he is, we can ask about that further, just to confirm that that's a reasonable, he's getting what he needs and he's getting support he needs to do that. Go ahead.
Joseph, I can clarify that at all. It's actually me that puts it on the website.
Well, thank you.
And it was actually there, but not properly linked. So that was my mistake. So it was uploaded, but not properly linked. And I did receive it from Joseph in time for it to be posted. So the article was posted about the meeting and I just didn't have it properly linked.
Okay.
And that was pointed out to me this morning and I fixed it. So
Thank you.
apologize.
No, it's okay. Thank you. So moving on to, if there's no public comment, is any further public comment online or?
No hands.
So I'll close the public comment period and let's move on to the general manager's report. Kurt, will you be doing that for Chris?
Yes, I will. So I will start off by pointing out that we have a new project manager, Joe McKenna. And he is here in the room with us this morning and he's gonna say hello.
Yes. Hello, my name is Joe McKenna. Like Kurt said, I'm the newest project manager here at PUD. I have a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Washington State University. And I worked for the last 8.5 years as a project manager for a fabrication company. I'm just really excited to be here at the PUD.
Thanks, Joe.
Welcome.
We're pretty happy to have him here, especially with bringing a mechanical engineering degree. We're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, me too. That's great news. Thank you I got to meet you briefly at the send off for Brian Walters and to the just to share with the commission, that was a very enjoyable and meaningful event for me. Known Brian certainly since I got elected, and I've been very enjoyed working with him all these years. And we all missed you two missed out on some exceptional cheesecake.
It was really good.
And I missed any opportunity of blending in because I was the only one not wearing a flannel shirt. So.
Okay, so to get to the general manager report, I have to say that we have to declare an emergency again. I believe you received an email from Chris Heimgartner about that. We were having trouble with our new VFD4, our new VFD5. And the plan was to have our own staff install the new VFD4, which is supposed to arrive in 6 days. Because it would be an additional task for our crew, we were just we weren't really on a time schedule. But now that we're having trouble with VFD5, we were going to request outside assistance to install it. And we actually have someone lined up for that. That's going to be Mills Electric, who's a local firm. And so hopefully they have crew available. Hopefully about 2 weeks after we actually get it in stock, we should have it up and running. So that's
And for those of us who don't know.
oh, a variable frequency drive. Sorry about that. So that allows our high head pumps to pick up speed slowly or whatever rate as opposed to just off and on. And when we talk about 600 horsepower motors turning off and on very fast, it causes a lot of wear and tear on our already kind of old plant one. We have to worry about concrete anchors breaking free or concrete failing, because it shakes the whole building when we turn
Yeah,
off. So that's my first point, if you have any questions on that.
I just want to
Oh,
clarify, way I'm interpreting what's going on, you're gonna have two concurrent teams in the building at buildings at Plant One. One focused on VFD 5 and the other one focused on the new install. And it seems like a really smart thing to do in terms of dealing with a potentially potential reliability issue here. So it definitely seems to make sense for me. I'm just curious, how are you managing all the people? Is it going to be
well,
incredibly busy in that building, and workplace safety and all those things with all those people in the building?
Well, the two VFDs will be physically in different spaces in Plant One. And then one will be already installed, and it'll be Rockwell, the manufacturer, doing warranty work on the VFD 5. And then VFD 4 will be in a different space, and it will be installed, but they'll be separate. So they'll be kind of working in different areas.
Thank you.
Yep. The next thing is, so I had to declare an emergency last time I was in the space, but that was for our three-way switch on our 115K transmission line. And we had Patelco on site, and they were able to replace some items, clean some of the switches that were up there on the pole, and that switch is now back in service. And that was kind of the best scenario for what we could have expected. We've actually had it flown by the drone company that we used, and they did thermal imaging, and it looks good. And so that switch is back in operation. So that's good news.
That is good news.
So then couple operational things. During that time when Patelco was doing the work, we actually had Plant One offline, and during that period, we installed a new valve on high head 2. And so now all 5 of the high heads can be isolated from the water transmission line. So if we need to do work on any of the high heads over there, we can just close the valve, and we can do any work that needs to be done. That was something that Devin had been wanting to have happen for many years, and so we have shut-off valves for all the high heads. We emptied Plant One basins and cleaned them, and then one of the things that we were able to do during the basin cleanings was there were some walkways over the initial point where the water enters the plant, and there were some walkways with some failing struts that were replaced while the basins were empty, and so took care of a safety issue there. And now Plant 2 up here we're doing the basin cleanings right now for Plant 2. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any further questions, Commission?
How long does that whole process take?
The basin cleaning?
Basin cleaning, yeah.
It takes probably a 1 day of 2 to 3 personnel with fire hoses hosing down all the mud to go out to the waste basins. So I mean, it's about 2 days between emptying the basin, cleaning it, and then refilling it. But we can break it into sections too. We're not bringing like the whole plant down to clean basins. We can separate the basins into parts.
And so are we significantly reducing our water supply for that day?
No, not really. Because we're kind of in a sense, we're taking like half of one plant offline.
Okay.
So we're not really affecting our delivery.
And we do this how often?
Well, 2 to 3 times a year, depending on what kind of dirt load we get off of the river. But we pretty much do it every single spring, because over the winter we get a pretty big river. So
I was just curious.
yeah, of course.
Just reminded, when I first started as a commissioner, we did like a water 101.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember doing that? Any of you doing a water 101? But we gotta go see the sediment and might be fun for Eddie to see what that looks like.
Well, we
Or
did
do
a
you know?
tour of the plants.
Right. I think one of the basins should be open this morning, so if you wanted to go after the commission meeting, we could walk up there and
Just see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
so today would be a good day for that. If you're interested.
I don't, wow, it's raining. I've got curly little
Yeah, I might, since it's right there.
And then, does that mean, commissioners, that we should try to wrap up a little bit early, so you guys have time to go do that? Maybe try to shoot for 10?
We don't have too much on the agenda, right? I guess if this presentation only takes 30 minutes. And,
Yeah, I think that should work out. And of course, I'm trying vacation too, so I'm not gonna complain about that, so.
So that's all I have for the operations and general manager reports.
Okay, and you just mentioned the operations part, but before we move on to our, broadband and other updates, I wanted to bring up, under the general manager's report, that I've been working with, our general manager, Chris Heimgartner, over the last several months to help implement a schedule for performance reviews. And so we've identified our next commission meeting, April 23rd, for performance review. Is that 20? Did I get the date wrong? 22nd?
Yeah, 1 second, correct.
Thank you for that, Kurt. The April 22nd, Tuesday regular meeting. We'll be doing a performance review, and at that same time, we should also reaffirm the contract. And maybe John, if you can clarify if we need to take any action at that meeting in addition regarding the general manager's contract. It's on a kind of an automatic renewal at this point.
Unless you're making amendments to it, there's no need to take any action.
So can I ask you, John, to send the contract and the notice about this for the executive session for the performance review to the commission in preparation for that April 22nd meeting? And I think we probably all got I do remember we all got a document that Chris had prepared to help focus the performance review discussion. But sending that again to the entire commission so that the commission is prepared for that meeting on April 20th.
I may not have a copy of that. We'll have a copy of the GM contract. I can send that to you, and Joseph and Lisa will handle the notice, any special notice if necessary. Otherwise, the executive session will be on the regular agenda. So maybe we can talk to Chris about sending out his form.
Yeah, and I know the three of us got it, but it just as a refresher link, and we got plenty of time for that. I'll make sure to follow up and make sure that everybody got that too in my next check-in with Chris. I didn't do one yesterday. It'll be on Monday, next Monday. So I'll make sure to track that for us all. Appreciate that. And lastly, I didn't, in my conversations with the general manager, I got the feeling that he had no amendments planned. And on quick review of the contract, there was nothing that immediately popped out for me, but let's obviously revisit that at that meeting. Any comments on that before we move off the general manager's report and the operations report?
Nope.
That'll put us on the first of 3 if we keep the same spacing. I know I had suggested, and I think we had agreed to doing 4. But it's already April. So if we keep it this 4-month spacing, it'll be August or maybe sooner. But I guess we can play that by ear. We already when we discussed this before, we say we'd play it by ear anyway. But let's see how this meeting goes on the 22nd, and then we'll decide when our next review should happen. Okay, with no further comments, I'll move on to our ongoing business items, starting with broadband.
Very briefly, good morning, commissioners. On the Point Roberts project, things are moving along just fine. We have our underground and aerial, areas that we want to build the infrastructure, and on the aerial, we want to attach to a number of PSE-owned utility poles. And in order to do that, there's what's called make-ready costs, or what it's going to look like for us to attach to those poles. And so it's been about 8 months that we just finally got all those make-ready costs back. So we're working through that, and there's a little bit higher cost than we originally anticipated. So we're working through that. But parallel, we've updated our monitoring plan, which initiates the tribal consultation. And what we anticipate through DAP, or the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, that they'll probably require us to have an archaeological permit for our build out on Point Roberts. And then probably monitoring of any ground disturbing activities for the underground areas. So what we anticipated, but just wanted to give you an update on where we were with that. So that's the broadband update. Happy to take any questions.
Commission, any questions?
Do we have a contractor lined up for the archaeological monitoring? I mean, assessment and the ground monitoring?
We don't have anything formally set up, but to put together the monitoring plan, we work with Great Indian Archaeology out, who put the monitoring plan together.
Okay.
But for specific monitoring, we would build that into the RFP process.
Okay, so I have two items I just want to mention. First, Andrew, informally, I mentioned this white space technology. I did have some so to the commission's benefit here, there is a technology called white space for broadband, and that technology was very much led by Microsoft. They lost their enthusiasm for the technology for a few reasons, but it really had mostly to do with upload speed. And the reason is because as a wireless technology, it's inherently not symmetric. And upload speeds are always going to be more of a challenge for a wireless technology than download speeds. And the reason is because the central antenna to deliver data is going to be much bigger than what you have on your house. So I reviewed a vendor of this technology and have had conversations about how to overcome that. See, as a minimum, the state requires that we have 100 megabits down and 20 megabits. Is that bits or bytes, Andrew? Help me.
Megabytes.
Yep, sorry, bytes. I said bits. I meant bytes. 100 megabits down, 20 megabits of my bytes up. And the difference between bits and bytes is 8, by the way. But anyway, so 20 megabytes up. And what that vendor said is, yes, they can achieve the state's desired goal. So what I want to do is forward the email correspondence to you, Andrew, if you're okay, and then we can review that at a later time and talk about whether that could be a potential instrument to help us in our BEAD round 2 application process.
Happy to take a look.
Yeah, just take a look at it. I also said that I don't think there's, there may not be time enough to look at new vendors, new technology at this point, because obviously we have some deadlines. So what's our BEAD round 2 application deadline?
May 16th.
Yeah, not a lot of time. Okay. And the other thing is, there's folks in the community have raised a concern over backbone and redundancy, and also would like to hear back if there's anything that we've been doing in the last couple of years with respect to public funding, federal funding on broadband that's improving the redundancy and resilience of our fiber network, period. So basically recognition that we're relying on gateways for backhaul of data that could potentially become, less reliable in the future. So that's a second topic. And maybe I can follow up with Chris on that in our next check-in, and then we can revisit it to commission as appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I think the next time on our agenda is it adjudication or is it geothermal?
Correct.
I have no adjudication update.
Wow, John.
We're still working on preparing our background documents for the claim. It's a heavy effort. Our team's been working with Rebecca and Joseph on all the historical records and the wheels of data. literally wheels of data, that go back to the early 1960s, and we're starting to collect that. Our goal remains to have all the documents prepared for filing a claim by the end of December, even though the deadline is not until March, so, or excuse me, May, so we have time to adapt if necessary.
Thank you, John.
Yes, they've been working a lot trying to interpret those wheels, that's for sure.
I assume that Joseph couldn't have come at a better time. Let's move on to geothermal.
I do not have any geothermal update. I have not been in communication with Chris at all on that matter. So, sorry about that.
I just wanted to check in with the commission on one geothermal item. There was the request from Energy Northwest that, you know, in the last meeting that Chris raised, I believe he raised it. I didn't quite follow it, frankly. But I didn't recognize we had actually declined an offer to participate in a study with Energy Northwest. And I would ask Commissioner Uri, who's our Energy Northwest representative, if that is something that you could further elaborate on why we decided not to participate in their study.
I'm not sure. Wait, when was this?
So in the last meeting, Chris gave us an update. It's in our minutes. It's in our packet under the minutes. And maybe we can return back to this subject at our next commission meeting. Because we really should have Chris present to talk about the rationale for not participating in the study.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when the study was, Atul?
I think it was an upcoming study that
Oh,
Northwest wanted our participation in, and Joseph included that in the minutes. And if I can ask you, Eddie, to refer to that item in the minutes of our last meeting.
Oh, okay. This was under the geothermal update.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Actually, under the GM report. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. No. Okay. That's, remember now. Well, I hadn't discussed it with Chris. And okay, he wrote a letter of support. We may need to look back at my email on this, but
Yeah. When is your next Energy Northwest meeting, and is that something you can get further clarification on?
I can. Yeah, actually, it's next week. We'll be going out to Tri-Cities for the quarterly board meetings next Wednesday. So there are, I can seek to just get, I guess, like check in on that with Chris and then discuss it. I don't know if the ship has sailed or
I'm guessing the ship is probably, but it's still good for us to understand what happens there and why.
I think it was probably because the area they were studying was just a different, you're looking at a different geographical area outside the scope of and we're already have studies underway for Mount Baker.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, we're sticking to our knitting basically as far as geography.
That was like duplicative, but
Andrew, would you have any idea? I mean, you work in geothermal, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Commissioner is correct. That's-
Yeah, okay.
And it's, I'm not directly involved, but we did provide a letter of support in full support of their study, but we just have a parallel study going with the Nooksack Tribe Corridor, and that was, the Energy Northwest was looking at a more broader view of the state, not just Whatcom County specifically.
Certainly, they'll have the benefit of all of our data in their study.
yeah, I'm sure it'll still, like, the study will be useful to us in some capacity. Yeah, well, I'll try to find out more, report back to the next meeting.
And then I believe the last item is a strategic plan. Sorry, is there anything further? Sorry, is there anything further on geothermal? And then the last item on our updates or ongoing business is strategic plan. Is there any updates on the strategic planning process?
I think yeah, do you need to schedule a meeting? I'm not sure. I think that's the next step, but I don't really have an update on that.
Do we want to get started on that now, or should we wait for a few days until Chris is back and get started on it?
I think we could wait for Chris, but I'll let him know that this is something that scheduling needs to be figured out.
Yeah, I mean, and it may be a harder time to schedule coming up here, so make sure we get that going as soon as we can.
Is there a constraint for scheduling or?
Not on my part.
Oh, okay.
I've done my vacations.
Okay.
I work too much, I don't have vacations.
So I think that's all of the old business.
Okay, so let's move on to new business.
So it looks like our first one is a presentation on the Whatcom PUD archives and record management from Joseph.
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, good morning. I'm very excited to actually to be able to talk with you a bit this morning, although I have to say it's a bit of an ego trip actually writing about myself in the third person when I take minutes on my own presentation. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. I put together a little presentation about the work, and I'm going to probably reference we a lot in this because a lot of the work that was done was not just me. I have to say I've been very, very grateful to staff both in the office here and our water and electric crews. They've helped me turn our records room a bit upside down and create more storage and help me move file cabinets and all kinds of things. And we'll get into that in detail a little more. And then also, when I started here, the beginning of my process was to understand the history of the PUD before I started diving into the records, because as an archivist and a historian, you can't understand the records until you understand the big events and the big agreements that were made, et cetera, for an organization. So to Brian, I'm very much grateful. He had so much history of the PUD in his head, and he shared so much with me. His input, Chris's input, the guys up at the plant that have been here for years, they were so helpful in me, or in helping me to understand what was important when things were built, et cetera, which has greatly helped me in this project. So a lot of the pictures in here will be things I've taken of myself, of the stacks of boxes and the work I've been processing through. And also anything else is actually from our history files. So they're historic files. So when I started this project, I set up a set of goals. One set that would be things that could be accomplished, checkmarked, done, and then another set that would be continuing ongoing goals, because as any archivist will tell you, our job doesn't stop. Everybody creates paper, everybody creates records. We have timelines, continuums, etc. So there are things that I will be working on until I retire, and then somebody else can take it over from there. But the goals that were accomplished were all of our records from all of the plants, plant 1, plant 2, were consolidated into the main office records room or my office. And in order to store all of those, we did some reorganization on the records room right next door to my office to allow for storage of archival records, which are our long-term records that we will hold on site. and active records, which is the continuum that every record we produce is on. And then when they reach the end of that line, we make the determination of if they need to be kept long-term, or if the archives gets them, or if they can be destroyed. So the pictures here, the top one is my office pretty much as it is right now. Believe it or not, it was worse. About a week and a half ago, and you come in here, you're 2 weeks now, you wouldn't have seen my desk or me. So like I say, we had everything, every stitch of documentation that we have that is not uh, stuff that is needed for our electrical and water crews, which is all of their maps, drawings, manuals for the pumps, etc. That is living up with operations that should live there. They're the ones that are using them regularly. Those are where those are at. Everything administrative is here, and it was a lot. Um, so we gathered them all, brought them all here. Um, and while I was up at plant 2 gathering the records, there was a set of shelving there that I eyed for the room, which is on the bottom left, or on the bottom picture here is the right side shelving. That's right after the file cabinets there. And as I brought boxes over, I went through them all and gave temporary labels to all of the boxes so that I can, so A, I can know what was in them, and B, determine if they needed to be on the continuum or if they needed to be kept long-term, or in some cases, we were able to donate, or not donate, I guess is the right word, but give to the Washington State Archives records of ours that are archival and need to be kept by the state. And those records, just so you're aware, we do have copies of. They were minutes uh, of our commission meetings. They were agenda packets and resolutions. So we have our own internal copies, and the state will have copies as well, so that we have a redundancy of records that way. Then the next piece was, after I had my office stacked to the ceiling, I went in and reorganized the records room with a whole lot of help from, and a whole lot of patience from my fellow, as Chris likes to say, our dark side, my fellow dark side office mates, because I was making some noise as I was pulling shelving down and moving filing cabinets around, and I cluttered up our hallway for a little bit until we could get the file cabinets out of the way, and they were very patient and understanding, and I'm grateful for that. Um, in doing this, there were other file cabinets in this office. I don't know if you can see my marker here, but where these file cabinets were up to this shelving were all file cabinets across this wall. There were a couple on the back wall. They were not fireproof. So I removed the records from those, labeled the boxes that those went into of what they were. Some of them, most of those are actually still in my office to be sorted. Some of them were ready to be deaccessioned, so which is our term for destroyed. And so those were labeled, and the proper paperwork was done for those. And then I took the non-fireproof cabinets out, sans one that we're going to use for our adjudication records as we build files and claims. And then removed, there was a bunch of hanging shelving right above the file cabinets. That all got removed. And I got very lucky because I took an eyeball measurement of the empty space and assumed that this cabinet would fit. And I did not take the actual measurement until the cabinet was brought down here. And luckily, by the skin of my teeth, it fit perfectly. So put that plant 2 shelving in, and now that shelving is used as our records continuum shelving. So in this corner, or on this shelf, these records are organized by destruction dates, with the earliest date, which will be January of next year here, and the last date of 2030, I think, is what we have records to, are down here, and that will be kind of my sorting shelf for those records. So to that degree, we have continuing goals, and just, these are pictures of the opening of plant 1 and the first ever electrical basically the electrical station and substation that we put in and the turning of the power on. I found those in our digital files. I thought they were very cool. So our continuing goals are to maintain the archival and active records databases that I've started and maintain destruction logs for the records that are due for destruction, and to work collaboratively with staff on this records process, because they are the reason that the records are being produced. And I really think it's important that we have that collaborative understanding of who's making what records, who's working on what projects, where are those records going, so that everyone can be on the same page, find what they need to do their jobs. And also, if we get public records requests, so that everything can be found, processed, and done in a streamlined manner. So the maintenance of archival and active records databases is the first piece. I've been creating destruction logs based on the Washington State Records retention schedules. And we have to cite DANs, which are disposition authority numbers. So there are literal laws that state when and how we can dispose of documents, and then once they are due, what the process needs to be, whether they go to the archives or whether we can destroy them if they're of no use to us. The initial focus has been on preparing destruction logs, because in my office, which I'll show you a picture of on the next slide, I have several boxes and a table piled with documents that are due for destruction. So I've been filling out and have completed filling out the disposition records for those. For our historical and archival records, I've been going through them, determining what they are, and refoldering, reboxing, and putting them into an access database where I can describe what the records are, give searchable terms and phrases, so that if we ever need to find them again, it will totally be searchable. It's a little bit more of an advanced, what we call a business finding aid, so that if staff needs to find those records, or they're not sure where something might live, they can search a broad term and find those. For the records due for destruction, which I've got, like I say, the pile of here, I will be scheduling a day for shredding for all of those. And then the other piece I'm working on is I'm working on some shelving and filing labels for the cabinets in the room, so that we'll know what they are by visually looking at the labels, but also I can reference those two entries in the database. So these are our records due for destruction. That stack on the right here is just about to the ceiling. I think I have enough room for maybe another set of 3 boxes before I have to remove ceiling tiles. And then this is all due as well. These have all been done in these forms. These are destruction forms that I fill out and we retain for so many years after destruction of the records. And then this, I wanted to give you guys an example. I want to give the commission an example of the DAN, of the rules I'm following, to mark all of this stuff for destruction, and when and how, and the guidelines. This is my personal favorite because it relates to our payroll registers. And it's one of the longest DANs at 100 years after the employee's birth. So basically, we're keeping those records for 100 years. So I will be retired and probably dead by the time somebody has to deal with them after I'm done. So the final phase and the final piece will be staff education on the process and working collaboratively to train staff on these schedules and how they apply to the various records they're creating, and what my process is, so that we can work, as I say, collaboratively, and keep our records process moving along steady, so that everybody knows where everything is and everybody knows when things are due for destruction. And when they are due, I do check with staff before I do DANs to make sure they have no other need for those records. And again, it's just that communication, that collaborative environment, because what we create here and what we do here in terms of records creation, it's important. It's the history of of us. And knowing where all that is and knowing the background is so very important. Um, and there will be encouragement for staff to maintain their own records according to their core schedules. And then obviously, if they could label them and send them my way, then I could make sure they need to go where they go, that kind of thing. Um, and at year end, I will start this in December this year. Uh, Go around, gather up any records that their life cycle is over for the year, that they're not needed anymore, find the DANs for them, do that process. And again, just keep this process going because it is an active, ongoing process. And that is what I've been doing, what I've had staff help with. And again, I'm so very grateful to our staff because I could not do what I do. I could not understand um, what I now know or what I now understand and know of the history of the PUD without them, and could not have done the rearranging without them. And so with that, thank you, and I'll take questions. And just for the record, pardon the pun, um, this is the section of shelving in our records room that I have designated for the boxes for adjudication. So this is as we gather records for adjudication, they're going here. Everything will be right here so we can reference it and come back to it as we need to. So again, thank you all so very much. I'm open for any questions you have.
Okay, Commissioner.
Records retention is a super sexy thing. So I'm sure everybody has lots of questions.
You're
But
hilarious, Commissioner.
yeah. It's one of the things that I have to worry about also, Joseph. So you're saying, you're keeping employee records for 100 years?
Yes,
That's
we have
different for
to.
not.
So the core
state,
the core schedules may differ the core schedules differ depending on the organization.
right, yeah, so we are not so it's a state agency, is that what we are? Like, I'm just
Correct.
wondering how we differ. Okay, state.
Correct.
Okay.
We follow the core schedule is for state agencies. I'm not sure what applies to nonprofits based on how you were audited
Oh,
and
yeah, I've got a whole list. I
yeah,
was just
so
wondering
those retention schedules that I showed you an example of, we actually have two. We have the main core that the state gives for all agencies, and then we have a specialized set of schedules that apply strictly to us as a utility district.
Interesting. Specifically electric.
Yes, specifically electric, yeah.
Yeah, electric and water.
It was an interesting presentation.
Um, Joseph, are these hard copy records also digitally archived?
Oh, you asked
Or
favorite question as an archivist. So real quickly to Commissioner Arnett, it's funny you say it's such a sexy presentation. The funny thing is I actually got asked one time at a bar in Seattle before a Seahawks game, what do you do for a living? I told them I was an archivist, and they looked at me and said, like Indiana Jones, and yes, that's exactly it. So
Pretty close.
so no, Commissioner Yuri, the thing is that, and this is a question I get asked a lot in the modern era, is that many records are you're not able to digitize a lot of them. Some of our records we have are on onion skin paper. They're so old. Um, so it's very thin, very fragile. Some of the records that we're using for, as an example, the wheels for adjudication, they're round. We could scan them, and there may be down the road an implementation of a scan and toss policy, but even with that, you have to be careful because digital records, the life cycle of a hard drive is about 10 years. And if you also don't pay attention to not only the age of the hard drive, as programs change, as PDF programs change, Microsoft changes Word for the 7 millionth time. If you don't migrate your records, they disappear. So paper, at least in the way I was taught in graduate school, paper is kind of your gold standard because the United States Constitution, we have physical copies of the United States Constitution that are 200 plus years old, right? And yet we've got dot matrix scan cards from the 1980s that we can't read or use anymore. We can still read that Constitution.
Wow.
If that makes
Right.
sense.
Mhm.
And we're still retaining this? Or?
The dot matrix card.
Yeah, so is it, but what about for new records? Are we all, we're sticking to the same form and printing them out?
Yeah, yes and no. The records retention schedules apply to, so like born digital records, emails, etc. We have processes in place, and I've talked to our IT team that capture that capture those records, and we have them for searchability for records requests, etc. But anything as like our minutes, our resolutions that are printed and you guys sign, that's the official record. That's the official copy. So things that are signed um, by hand get kept printed and signed by hand. Things that are, say, e-signed, those those fall under a different core schedule. That's also part of the ongoing work is working within our system, and we're working with our IT guys here. Thanks to them for a lot of this too. We're building folders, um, sorting things, making sure we have everybody knows where everything is, who has access to what, that kind of thing. And so born digital records get handled very similarly to paper records, just in digital form. And there's a lot more work that's involved in digital records because, as I said, you have to make sure everything's migrated, everything is still readable, everything is still usable, that the metadata transfers over. The digital world has made um, public records a fun place to live in Washington State.
Um,
Sure.
so I've got a comment and a question, and so I'll just mention the question first. The question is that, is it, as far as the state is concerned, is a document destroyed the moment you declare that it's to be destroyed? Or is a document destroyed only when you actually destroy it?
It's actually when you destroy it, and that's as long as you have. The state considers it this way: if you have, or you have that physical record, and if you get asked for it and can't find it, you're liable for it. But if you have destroyed it and you have your record of destruction, and you can use, like on that form that I showed you, there's a date that you fill out for the day of destruction, and you sign off when it's done. And you can, even if you need to for backup, which is something I probably will do, is on the date you have your shred event, or the date your shredder comes and picks up your shred bin, or however you're doing that, you take that slip that they give you that says we were here on such and such a date and did this, and you can add that to the back of those destruction sheets and basically show, yes, we had these, we noted them, we destroyed them on this day. Here's our proof from the shredding company that they've been destroyed. It's really covering bases.
Okay.
I have one more question, Joseph. For these longer term records, at what point do you put them in a protective room? You know, something with light
So
and
this
moisture?
room is protected. It is a fireproof room. The door is fireproof. And then that's why in this last picture, you see the Fire King cabinet right there. I bought that, or I purchased that, and then we have some others in that room too. The super long-term records, the personnel records, that kind of thing. And there's not a lot of them, but those will be stored double protected. Like I'll note that we have them, and they'll be stored in those fireproof cabinets in the fireproof room. So unless a nuclear bomb is dropped on us, theoretically, they should survive. And I mean, it's just best practice. You can only do what you can do, but we're doing everything
Yeah.
we can do.
Sure. Were they previously stored in a fireproof room?
Yes, and
Those, yes,
Yes.
they've been stored in this room, and everything actually that was stored at plant two, the room in plant two, I believe, is a fireproof room as well.
I haven't looked at the plans for that room, so I can't answer.
I believe,
good.
don't quote me on that, but again, you know, this is
It's the
the other
past.
part of the kind of the records thing is I can only do what was here.
Right.
And so anybody that steps into a new thing, and you guys, actually, I will say this, the PUD has a fabulous record setup. My job was made vastly easier when I came in because things were labeled. The vast majority of everything I was dealing with is labeled. I'm just going back through them and making sure that we have a database that will be accessible to that it will be accessible to everyone, that everyone can search and run through, and that I'm just taking the additional archival step of preservation, of maintenance. I want I this is what you hired me to do. So I'm doing it to the best of my ability and the best of my training, and everything, let's just say everything that was here is still here. So except for what's due for destruction.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make the comment that attending PUD meetings with other commissioners across the state, I want to say that there's a lot of desire among commissioners around the state to pay attention to security as it relates to records, critical infrastructure related matters. And I also wanted to make the comment that there's also a lot of desire among commissioners around the state to support the data privacy reasonable desires of and to protect staff to the best of our ability of obviously what's allowed within the law. And I want you to know that appreciate you giving this presentation, very supportive of what you're doing. Look forward for ongoing updates, and let us know if there's anything we can do to support you and this effort. And lastly, I also want to ask that I look forward to a history presentation at some point. It would be wonderful for us to get the download of what you're learning about our history. And I think you had alluded to that in the past. And whenever you're ready for that, we'll be delighted to receive it.
Sure, yes, I will. I can definitely put a timeline together. Actually, it's funny, adjudication is helping with that because it's definitely telling us, okay, when was this water right signed? And so at least the water side of it, the electric side of it, it's actually a little more straightforward and simple. The water side is where the history gets complicated. We did a lot of, the PUD historically has done a lot of projects with the county and with other entities where we were lead agency and developed something, and it either became ours or it reverted to whatever agency we were working with. So there's a very rich history of collaboration across Whatcom County with other entities, and then obviously the construction of our plants and our industrial water, and piping, et cetera. So it's for somebody like me who I guess is, I mean, for lack of a better term, is very much nerdy and just likes this kind of stuff in general and likes the understanding of progress and processes. It's all fascinating. I mean, I've looked and worked through everything as mundane as as financial numbers from the days before we were actually even fully operating anything to, I've held the original contracts for the first electrical plant that we built. And I mean, and I've gone in other archives. The record stuff is just fascinating to me. We toured the state archives for the Waputa meeting, which, by the way, I am the co-chair on the records roundtable for Waputa. So we've got plans afoot for quite the presentation for the other records members in that group coming up. And when I went to the last Waputa meeting, we toured the state archives, and one of the things that they showed, they have the uh, athletic licenses for several boxers and several professional wrestlers that came through here. So I got to hold Muhammad Ali's uh, Muhammad Ali's medical form with his picture on it that he signed, that he had to give to the Washington State Athletic Commission because they were planning a fight for him up here. I believe it was what became his first fight after he. No. In Olympia, I believe it was Seattle or Olympia. It was going to be the fight after he came back from after the Vietnam War was over, and they were going to, for whatever reason, they were planning it in Seattle. I don't know if it had to do with being around the World's Fair or what it was, but it never happened. But he had to file with the State Athletic Commission. So I got to hold his, like, a document that he held, that he filled out and worked with a doctor on. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's super, like, that really gets me going and why I like doing this, because for some people, oh, it's just paper. No, this is history. This is the bones of who we are and what we are.
Well, thank you again for the presentation. Any further comments or questions for Joseph? And there's no action required here, right?
No, just information.
Yeah.
I try to not spend enough money that you guys have to approve it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome. I will unshare my, oh, I did unshare my screen. Okay, perfect. Cool.
We still see you, but
Yep.
this is Zoom, right? Okay. All right. So moving on, the next item on our agenda, the agenda is numbered wrong, right? It goes from 8A to 8C, but there's no 8B, correct?
There's an 8B for the professional consulting services. Do you have that, Commissioner?
I sent an
boundary.
updated agenda and it with that correction in it, and then when I had sent the agenda with the resolution in it, I made that correction and then added the resolution.
Okay, thank you. So help me here, Kurt, if you don't mind. So 8B is approve of professional consulting services agreement for cybersecurity support services. Is that correct?
Correct, that is correct, Commissioner. So yes, this would be for Digital Boundary Group. This is another PSA, professional service agreement. We spend a lot of time on cybersecurity, and you probably recall within the last several commission meetings, we brought you a different firm to approve their PSA. But that helps us, we don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. We have different firms look at different parts. Sometimes, one company will look at software and then they'll do hardware the next time, or we'll have the same software looked at in different years, looked at by different companies. So we're not getting the same people looking at the same things. So we're not getting caught up and saying, oh, everything's just fine, because we looked at the same thing over and over. So that's why we're bringing you a different PSA company, just to give a different viewpoint on our cybersecurity activities. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got any questions from the commission?
Well, it sounds well necessary. So glad, yeah, glad we're getting this assistance, and I would move to approve.
I would second.
There's a motion, a
This
second.
is-
And is there any
Can I
further?
just ask-
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question out of curiosity. Do we ever catch any cyber criminals trying to infiltrate our networks?
No, just Amazon delivery drivers.
Nice, okay. Pretty safe so far.
Yeah, we would, well, you know, we haven't found anything that says, oh, well, you know, we just halted a ransomware attack or anything
Mhm.
like that. There's always, you know, we're a public entity, there's always emails that are coming through that are,
Phishing proven.
phishing,
Oh,
yeah, phishing,
Mhm.
stuff like that, and it's interesting, because especially on our email, there's a button that you press, there's a tab that says, you know, this is bad, I don't know what to do about it. And so sometimes it's from our crew, it's from the IT crew, and then you get this little message like, you get the little hand clap, like,
Yeah.
you did good.
I always, you
Yeah.
can't do it on your phone.
Oh, okay.
So I miss it half the time because I look at the email on my phone, but I wonder sometimes if I'm being tested.
You
I'm
are.
like, this is clearly phishing.
You are,
Okay.
and then sometimes when you get another one, it'll just like disappear, and then you know that could have been a potential like phishing attack, so.
Interesting. Oh, Rebecca has her hand up, Atul.
Please go ahead, Rebecca.
She's an attendee, she'll need to upgrade it.
Okay, now can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate what Kurt just said. We have a really good IT team that has us do monthly trainings. We get these monthly, we have to do within a certain period of time, and they're very comprehensive, and I really appreciate that all the IT staff has been really keeping on top of that to keep the PUD safe. I've learned a lot from my own personal computer use about what you don't open and what you just immediately throw away. So I just really want to give a big kudo to the IT staff for keeping us really, really safe at the PUD from that kind of issue.
Thanks, Rebecca. Me too. We get those, I'm sure it's the same trainings, right? And we have so
Yes.
long to, and then
Yep.
I get threatening emails. You have 24 hours
Yeah,
to
right.
finish your training. And I do, and I have learned a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, whenever someone's in a hurry, it's probably a problem.
yeah.
Right, likewise, just being onboarded here, I went through those, the required module trainings, and I've also seen some of those tests. Done the flag for phishing, some of those emails that turned out to be a test, so, yeah, likewise, just extend my appreciation to our IT staff, for keeping on top of all this. And, yeah, it's just good to know that we're, all doing our due diligence here, protect the organization.
Gotcha.
Great, thanks, commissioners.
If there's no further discussion, I think we need to put forward a motion.
We did. This is part of the discussion.
We do, and we already seconded. Did we approve the motion?
Yeah, no approval, Commissioner. Commissioner Yuri made the motion. Commissioner Arnett seconded. It is now open
Right,
for.
we were in discussion. Thank you for helping me.
Yeah.
So all those, if there's no further discussion, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for the help there. Moving on in our agenda, the next item is also an agreement. Let's see. For the work order related to Plant 2 basin covers, is that correct?
Correct, yes. So this would be a work order for the engineering. This is something that the crew has been asking for probably more than 10 years. When we get the Fraser outflow, we start getting frozen basins. We have crew out there by hand chipping off ice off of the basins. It's, they're doing it in the dark sometimes. Well, there's lights, but it's nighttime. They're doing it in the dark. And so it's a safety issue, and we've had our plant one engineer consort do like a feasibility recently. We looked at some different firms, and now we're asking Complete Design Incorporated to actually go through the full engineering of what it would take to actually install covers over the basins. So we could protect the crew, protect operations, keep water flowing. I mean, it's hard to describe how
Cool.
touch and go without a better way it can be when we are in frazzle. I mean, we have our plants are teetering, and our crew are doing everything that they can to make sure that our water is flowing out the transmission line, and this would be something to facilitate that work that they are doing on a regular basis.
This is pouring, Kurt, tell me if I'm wrong here, but it's pouring resources into a weather-driven bottleneck for our operation, so that the bottleneck is less acute.
Yes, I think that's a very good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Well,
Any-
I'll move that we approve work order number 5 with Complete Design Inc. for engineering services related to the district's plant 2 basin covers.
I'll second.
As a motion, a second, any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Great, thanks, Commissioner.
Okay,
So the last thing that you might not have, Commissioner Deshmani, is a resolution for a cancellation of a warrant.
please go ahead.
And it looks like Stephanie is here.
Good morning, commissioners. We have resolution 876. It's just business ESRI. I sent them a check in early March. They have not received it, so we're gonna void that one and reissue them a new one.
Okay.
Any
Did you hear
further,
all that, Commissioner Deshmani?
yeah, I did just, any further discussion?
Is there any particular concern about that, like getting lost in the mail, or?
It's happened before, I don't know, out of our control.
Yeah, well, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
And that's all the new business, Commissioner.
So, thank you, Kurt. So next item on our agenda is commissioner reports. Commissioner Arnott, would you go first?
Sure. I have no upcoming per diem requests. I do want to talk about, so YRO 1 put out their strategic plan draft, and I think all of you were CC'd in an email from Eric Hurst talking about water use efficiency, which is something that gets brought up quite frequently. And as the representative on YRO 1, I believe that he would like me to bring those concerns to the board, and which I'm happy to do. But you know, we've gone over this multiple times that water use efficiency is unlikely to be included in the strategic plan for a number of reasons. You know, we're in the middle of adjudication. Nobody wants to say that, oh, I actually use a lot less water than what you were saying. But I think that there's a lot of good work coming out of, like, farmers want water for agriculture, for, you know, obviously tribes want water, for everybody wants water. So I think that everybody is they're all coming to the table with good intentions. And nobody wants to be wasteful. I know I've heard in the past, you know, the ag community just lets their water run because they want to prove that they need to use it, and there's a use it or lose it clause. But the ag community is actually working on, some people in the ag community are actually working on water banking, sharing water. Like, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of that, but I do not think that water use efficiency will be put into the strategic plan. Rebecca has a comment. She probably knows a lot more about this in this moment than I do. Go ahead, Rebecca. Oh, she has to be promoted.
I had to wait till the end. Well, I just wanted to give you a little update with what's going on with the YR One management team and staff teams on that particular item, because we are just in the process of the YR One staff teams, and then we'll move it up to the management team before it goes to the board. We are just finalizing the new YR One board's strategic plan for the next 5 years. And in that, one of the sections where we will be looking at things, we did include at the request of Eric Hurst, we did include a little that we will be looking at water use efficiency. So it's in that big strategic plan for the board overall. That will come up. I think that's the hope is, but we're not sure that it will happen. I think the hope is that we might be able to bring that before the YR One Management Board, their new strategic plan in May, in their May meeting, but don't hold me to that because sometimes things happen. We have a meeting next week to go over it, review again, once again, everything regarding the final strategic update to their strategic plan for the YR One Management Board for the next 5 years. So hopefully that helps you know that it is being put in some documents, but I agree with it. It should not go into the PUD's strategic plan. That's all. Thanks for letting me talk.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mhm.
And we do have a YR One board meeting May 22nd.
Yeah, I
so.
thought, yeah, that's what I thought. So hopefully we'll have it before you for approval.
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
And I just want to also say we have little flyers, but it's worth mentioning because it's in my hometown. Bellingham Seafest and the Wacom Watersheds Information Network are having beautiful bivalves. It's a cultural exploration of shellfish, and people will be eating oysters, which is great.
Yeah.
Probably a fun thing to attend. Can learn about how bivalves help clean our waters, and they taste delicious. So come to that.
This Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday at 2 p.m.
Thanks for mentioning that. I was trying to figure out when to bring that up. You took care of it for me, thank you.
Oh, and I will be attending online the upcoming meetings.
Our meetings here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Arnett, for bringing up the watershed plan and the Seafest. Any further? Mr. Commissioner Arnett or anything like that? Okay, so Commissioner Uri, would you go next?
Yeah, like I say, I don't have a whole lot to report. I'm going to be attending Energy Northwest quarterly board meetings in Tri-Cities. I'm excited to go out there, see the facilities in Richmond, and particularly after the meetings, I'll have the opportunity to tour the Columbia generating station that's going through a planned outage. So pretty excited about that. And then the week after that is the annual PUD conference in Clark County. I do plan to attend that as well in person. Let's see. Well, I guess the only other things the last couple of weeks, just because we discussed it before, there was Senate Bill 5466, I think, the one on transmission planning. That did, I think yesterday, just passed the Appropriations Committee with a number of amendments that I've heard addressed a lot of the concerns and took out some of the more serious concerns that our general manager had. So it does look like that bill's likely headed toward the finish line, maybe further amended, but just I'm not really proposing any further action on that. Just flagging it. I think the legislative session ends in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from today? About 3 weeks, I think. And I think that's all. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Uri. I have one item that specifically for me, and then also I wanted to bring up something related to Energy Northwest. So first, the thermal energy networks is something that I've been interested for a very long time. Our general manager actually has provided some free consulting, mostly on his own nickel, to support the Corix project that the Port of Bellingham undertook and is to continue to develop for district energy. I have maintained good relations and developed new relations with staff at Cascade Natural Gas, and as part of that, they have requested that I spend some time in a conversation with their new thermal energy networks person. So the exact time of that meeting isn't scheduled yet, but it certainly won't be this week. But in the next week or so, I'd like the approval from commission for a 1 per diem for a meeting with Cascade Natural Gas staff to talk about thermal energy networks. If not, I'll do it anyway. It's not directly related to PUD business, so but it is something that that I care about. The other so I'll just ask me feedback from the commission. I'm okay with whatever you guys say. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
Thermal energy, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Is it just, it's just of interest to you, or is it maybe something that we could apply here at the PUD?
You know, it's adjacent to PUD stuff. You know, one of the things that's happening is, right, we're getting all, because we're energy specific at the PUD, and none of our local governments are. I've gotten during last year, I got many conversations that were initiated that were impacting what are we doing to help clean up the community energy wise. And so I've entertained those conversations because, you know, none of our city council members or county council members really have enough of a focus or aptitude on the subject to help steer our energy infrastructure as it relates to thermal energy in a better direction. I think all of us who've got exposure to energy know that we've got to do something about our heat. To try to decarbonize or reduce the footprint of our heat sources too. So that's why I stay involved in it. And it's just something that I'd be glad to report back if
yeah, I go and report back. That'd be good for me.
And maybe it'd be good. I'll make it as a 5 or 10 minute agenda item. So I'll talk about the bigger subject with Chris and so we can just update the commission about what's going on in the thermal energy space. And I don't intend to do anything like this more than once a year or so.
Would you anticipate talking about this at the next meeting?
Yeah.
For the agenda? Yes? Okay.
And then the other thing is, Commissioner Urietti, I want to be supportive of you regarding Energy Northwest. And I know there's lots of material that's being discussed. Namely the small modular, and secondly, the extended power upgrade. Is there any, which is just for everybody's education, Columbia Generating Plant has been evaluating whether to pursue a expansion of the capacity of the Columbia Generating Station, and has done extensive analysis about what that would cost and the power supply benefits. I believe some additional 100 and something, like 150 megawatts in the ballpark of supply. And they had presentations at PPC on that subject. And the other thing that's been presented recently at PPC as well is on the small modular reactors. And I'm wondering, Commissioner, if you need anything from our commission as far as support or feedback on representing us at Energy Northwest.
Well, insofar, I'm not so sure insofar as at the next meetings. I think I'll have more to report back. I mean, I will make note that later this year, we will be having to make a vote as a full commission on our vote as Whatcom PD as being a seated member of the Energy Northwest board on approving. Well, I think it'll be later this year. approving the going forward with a new nuclear project for small modular reactors. And I'm not sure if we'd have to approve on as far as steps on the expansion of the existing plant, but yeah, that was it was flagged for me at the last quarter's meeting. So that'll come. There'll be, I think that'll definitely need to be a full agenda item for sure, probably at more than one meeting to discuss. Because I don't take that lightly as a pretty serious decision. And something I've been doing a lot of self-education, and Chris has been helpful as well, and giving me reading materials and such, learning a lot about the new generations of nuclear reactors, technology, and both fission and fusion, and yeah, all of the opportunities and risks around that, and something I think I'd love to just make a point of discussing more deeply as a commission before we come to a full decision on. So yeah, just flagging that, but I'm not sure exactly when that will come to us.
So if you could work with the general manager directly to get that coverage on our agendas as appropriate over the next few months, that would be, I don't know what Commissioner Arnett thinks, but that would make sense to me. And if I can speak then to the presentation at PPC on the extended power upgrade, it seems like a complete no-brainer to me as presented. And the reason is because it doesn't change the footprint, ecological footprint of the plant. It generates more power in a world where we need more power. And the cost per megawatt is very competitive. So it's for all of those reasons, I think that it's a no-brainer to pass up baseload. But I mean, I'm going off the presentation I saw at PPC. So obviously you're going into a lot more detail. If anything concerns you, then obviously you'll address that in questions at Energy Northwest. And then if you need us to support a position on one way or the other, let us know.
Well, I guess if there's anything in particular you'd like me to, raise in the board meeting, let me know. I mean, I think as it is now, right, I'm the primary and you're the alternate as delegates to the board. So I think, if you have access to all the agenda materials as well and board docs, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that now I'm just realizing this would be our one opportunity to discuss that publicly.
That's what
so yeah, I
have one piece of input. And that is that small modular is a very different technology on a different timeline. It's evolving much more rapidly than the existing operations and incremental growth of the Columbia Generating Station. So the way you manage something, for example, Kurt might agree or may have thoughts about this too. The way you manage plant 1 and the way you manage plant 2 is different. Plant 2 is maintaining stable operation. Plant 1 is a whole lot going on, a lot of evolution happening. And I would say the management challenge of plant 1 versus plant 2 is small compared to Columbia Generating Station and SMR, because we're talking about brand new technology that obviously science that's already established, but different engineering. And so I just want to bring up, it's important to me that governance of the exploration and development of the SMR facilities is done recognizing the fact that it's very different operational. I mean, it's a different beast. And that what is a slow timeline for Energy Northwest and, widely spaced meetings with like very predictable flow, not slow down or not interfere with quick response from the board in a very timely manner. Oh, this just happened. Well, we shouldn't wait to have that meeting relating to SMR because we're waiting for an update on the Columbia generating station. That's really what I'm referring to. So that's my input. I did raise this at the last WAPUDA commission meetings. I got a good reception to raising this issue. I just wanted to repeat it again. So.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be, I mean, yeah, if you'd like me to relay that, I guess as I recall, are you able to also you can attend the meetings remotely, right?
It's hard though.
Yeah. As far as to participate, you mean, or to like?
Yeah, it's hard to participate, and also then, I want to use my per diems reasonably too. But so I certainly can. And if you want me to help cover these issues at the next one, I could certainly try to make time to be there. So remotely.
Yeah, just because I mean, because you've been you've been participating for so many years, and I'm new to this, and it's helpful, I think, for you to follow along for sure and offer guidance because learning the ropes with all of it. So, but I think I could relay the concern as well. But yeah, I would encourage you to. I don't know if there's an issue as far as two of us participating in the same meeting.
No, there isn't. I mean, there's no prohibition, but I'll try to use my time sparingly, accordingly. One of the days rather than certainly 2 of the days. So
there's also, yeah, I mean, because there's a variety. I mean, there's a variety of committee meetings throughout the there's a whole long day. So I think also could be. I think I'm going to be. I might actually playing on my schedule. I might actually miss some of the mornings, the first day's morning meetings. They're meetings of like the executive committees, not the full board. So just be at least there for the afternoon on Wednesday. So if you wanted to actually, perhaps if you were able to, if you wanted to attend.
Commissioner, you and I we're allowed to communicate as it relates to attending meetings. So let's take that offline, and then I will follow up with you once I look at my schedule too.
Okay, well, we can coordinate. Yeah, we can just arrange on the logistics of that.
Yeah, I think I'll be arriving there on Wednesday, not the night before. So, yeah. Okay.
Does that cover commissioner reports? All right, well then we have one last public.
Quick thing, just to remind the commission, I'll be attending virtually for the next commission meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, John. So we have we of course already said we won't be doing an executive session today, and so we have one final public comment period. Would anybody like to comment?
It looks like no one in the room was wanting to comment at this time.
Anybody online? Can somebody confirm for me?
I see no hands up.
Well, great. Thank you all for attending the Whatcom Public Utility District meeting. And I'll call the meeting to close. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'll get back to vacationing.